Hey guys, how's it going? This is another dose of Sailor's Wisdom, and this one, as you can see, is focused on fire safety. Now, it is mainly geared towards the people on ships, but I've put in things in there to where you can utilize it if you have a 20-foot or a 30-foot or whatever. You can still utilize some of these tactics and some of this information. As always, everything with my content on here, a disclaimer. What I tell you is from my personal experience, from my training, whatever, it does not constitute to you equaling a fire safety course of any kind. So, just, gotta keep the lawyers happy. When you encounter a fire, and I will say this right away, it is okay to have a scared response. Does not mean you're a sissy or a wuss. It just means you're a human being and not a robot. So, when you encounter a fire, you may choose if you want to fight the fire, to combat it, whatever. But the first thing that should come out of your mouth is the word fire. You need to alert the people that you're battling something, or that you see something, that there's something on fire. You need to make sure they know what is going on and where it is. So yelling fire and where. If you have alarm switches nearby and you're familiar with the vessel, you've been trained, good. Please save your crew member's life and get the word out. If there's not that, then grab to a phone and get the hell call up to that bridge. Say, hey man, we got flames in the engine room. Or hey man, we got flames in this cargo bay. Or hey, we got flames over here, in the galley. Something. Because while you're trying to do something about it, or alerting other people closest to you, the whole command center of the ship is now aware that this is going on. If they aren't already aware due to alarm systems and hopefully a built-in automatic suppression system. So, once you notify everybody, then you go decide, But the biggest thing that you need to think about is the variables that work here. I don't care how many manuals you read about fire safety. The bottom line is there's variables. There will always be variables. And it isn't just fire happened at A, B, and C, and I did A, B, and C, and it matched up, and the fire is now done. It's not like that. It's not something, hey, I could just put a band aid on it. We're good now. It doesn't always work that way. Because the band aid you might put on there is the wrong one. And we'll get to that in a minute. So there's that part. If you're cool with responding, okay. But don't chance your life. You may get to a situation where if you have a small boat, there's nothing you can do if you have a 20-footer and there's like this explosion and there's these flames everywhere, and there's a pretty good chance there's not any salvageability and it's not looking good. Get the hell out of there. This is another big one. When I said variables, this is another one. So, chemicals. You could be as trained of a fireman on board a ship as you possibly can. But if you cannot memorize or know enough to know what the MSDS are and where they are, and if, God forbid, your ship even has them categorized and labeled, you could end up like Kentucky Fried Chicken if you don't pay attention and learn these hazardous chemicals. Because you are not talking about just a fire that you try to put out one way. It gets a hold of a chemical, and then you have a whole different situation. And maybe you're stuck in there with a Class A, thinking it's Class A, which we'll get into in another slide. And you find out you need a whole nother fire extinguisher, but now it's too late. Now you're surrounded. Now you're screwed. So it's really good if you know basics. There's going to be paint on board these ships because they're going to be repainting. They're going to be doing maintenance duties. They're going to be doing stuff with metals and welding. What's going to be on there. So just keep aware of and ask where your material safety data sheets are. All right. Classes of fire and extinguishers to deal with them. Class C is your electrical, your wires, your breakers, your conduits. Uh, you, I don't recommend doing water on most of these. There are one, and that's a class A, but it also could bite you in the butt. So I'm just covering my ass. But for electrical wires, breakers, and conduits, you want to use C. And you want to see if you can also shut the area. If it is conduits or your breakers or wires in a specific area, close it up. I had at one point, I had a fire, believe it or not, below the helm of the tugboat. And it was some wires touching wires. All we had to do, realize that was going on, remove the problem, close up the area. Obviously, remove the problem first, but you get the idea. You're wanting to starve it of an element that created the fire in the first place. So now there's no more wires touching each other. They've been repaired, you know what I mean, etc. For Class A fires, they're your plastic, paper, and cloth. Okay, they are common of what would be bunks down below, your laundry areas, areas where you'd have lots of cloth and fabric and wood type things. You'd want a Class A for that. A Class K are for your cooking fires, but you also have the combined one, the ABC, because within a kitchen situation or in a galley, for that matter, you don't know what could have caught fire. You come in there and it could be somebody was stupid enough to try to put, like a rag or something that they already used to wipe down grease to try to stop the fire that's happening, and it just makes it worse. So you've got that on top of that. You come in there for, you have the fire extinguisher K, and you come in there with a Class K, and you're like, oh, that kind of worked. So A, B, C. I guess it's a new thing. I'm old school, but I recommend it because it has everything in one. You've got your Class D for metals, and then your Class B for liquid fuel and gas. You should have a lot of Class B near points where you are going to be fueling the vessel so that they're easily accessible, much the same way that you should have in the galley a couple of Class K fire extinguishers, because that is an area where you are having a higher potential of a fire situation. How to tackle. So, if you feel comfortable, if you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. But if you feel comfortable, um, these are the ways to tackle each type of fire. Now, I'm not going to go too much in detail. I'm just going to let you read a little more. But there are certain parts that I will point out. For example, I'm going to go with electrical, like wires, touching wires. Using a Class C, you want to close the area off. Less oxygen will allow the fire to lessen. But big, do not use water to put out this kind of fire. It will not end the way you intended. Just don't do it. It's just one of those stupid. Just don't. Combustible items like paper, trash, and cloth. You are privy to use the water, but I say sparingly because sometimes it may not have that desired effect, but it's not as horrible if you were to do it for electrical. Same thing with in token with cooking oil and grease fires. Do not use water. Just don't. You've seen how many YouTube videos of people in a kitchen at home trying, and it just literally, quite literally, blows up in their face. Just don't. Combustible metals. This one you want D. But be careful of the fumes. People are surprised that, and yes, I saw the typo. People are surprised that burning combustible metals can have strong fumes that they're not expecting. Liquid fuel and gas, Class B. Like I said in the other slide, key sparks is smoking away from areas where you are fueling, keeping these guys by where you're fueling will help. Having that Class B there will help when you need it, because you can stop it right there. Like I said in the other slide, engine fire, having ship suppression system, so that you have that. Fire extinguisher leave, closing each hatch as you exit. That is very important, because you are sectioning it off. Not only are you stopping the spread, which is allowing your passengers or crewmates to safely evacuate or muster gear to return to the location and try to combat the fire, but you're also stopping damage, farther damage to the vessel, so that other areas are kept safe and the fire doesn't spread. Alright, fire extinguisher use and maintenance. So y'all probably already have heard of the pass method, so I'm not going to go too much detail, but it's pretty self-explanatory. The sticker's already on the fire extinguisher. It's made to where anybody, no matter what language you speak or ability, can operate the thing and get to safety or save a buddy. Importance here. A lot of cadets that's in the server that I've talked to, in the Discord server Sailor's Wisdom and Maritime Broadcast, have told me horror stories that the last time their fire extinguishers were inspected was as far back as 2012. And I'm like, well, when you go to use that, it's just going to go, and the fire's just going to go whoosh, and you're going to be dead. And they're like, well, we tried to talk to our captain, we tried to talk to our safety person. It's like, no. If you see a safety concern, say something. There are protections for whistleblowers in the company. You just got to find that ethical hotline and do it anonymously and say, hey, man, here's a photograph of these fire extinguishers. This is when they were last serviced. This is when they were last inspected. This is when they were last, replaced. Or, hey, they're leaking. Here's the evidence. And they're going to want to know which ship that is, and they're going to take care of it. They're not going to care who it was. If you see a safety concern, speak up. It's no excuse. Please. I can't even believe I'm having to make a slide for this. For no reason do you ever have an excuse to throw a fire extinguisher. I don't care what kind of fire. I don't care if you're abandoning ship. You do not have any excuse to throw a fire extinguisher into a fire. Okay? You ever think of 1,000 ways to die? This is one of them. Just don't do it. You're not going to... You think that it's going to make the fire go away instantly like a cartoon. It's not. It's going to be very much the opposite. So just please use your brain. Alright. Monitor areas more likely to catch fire. Remember I said when you were fueling? That's one example. And when you're cooking, that's another example. There are other types, but those are two main ones. Here is how you can monitor when those situations, if you want to put certain systems in the engine room, like a smoke detector, if you have a smaller boat, a cheap smoke detector, it does not have to be, don't tell anybody I said it, does not have to be marine grade $500 thing. It can be what you got at the fire department on land. Just something you can stick it in there that when it detects smoke, it lets you know. Because that could be you guys sleeping and it woke you up and saved your life. Alright, so we got that. If you could swing it, getting a monoxide detector, yes, that's important. That's as important as the smoke detector. Obviously, if you've got a bigger vessel and you have some monies, having a fire suppression system is really important. You know how I am about drills? You either love them or you hate them. Well, in my situation, you either love me or you hate me because I'm big about drills. You can't expect somebody to respond to a fire efficiently, safely, methodically, or tactically if they've not done drills to practice. My first experience when I was first starting out sailing, we used like a watermelon for the man overboard drills, and we used a dummy for the fire rescue drills, where we would go in, we'd have a simulated fire, and we would go in, and we would pull this dummy out. And we'd have to don our gear and everything. But the drills are part of the variables I mentioned and the first few slides. I think it was number 4. And this is one of the variables. You can almost count on it being the worst variable possible if you have a crew that does not know how to use a fire extinguisher. And if they're not crew and they're your passengers, that's no excuse. Teach your passengers. If you are a weekend boater, you just have you, your wife, your 2 daughters, your 2 sons, or something. Teach them. The fire extinguisher is made for them to even operate it. It's easy to understand, and it has instructions, and it's able to be operated by, a child, maybe not a toddler, but you know what I mean. Enough that would be going boating with you, enough to help in the learning process that you're trying to show for safety purposes. Involve your kids in the drills. You should have drills whether you're on a commercial fleet vessel or a recreational. It doesn't have to be $1 million drill either. Just simple. You don't have to make there actually be a fire. Just sticky note that says fire, whatever. And they're doing their thing, and you just stick it there on the wall, and they know, oh, fire drill. And they do their thing, Station bill is really big here. You can't have a drill without a station bill. So, I mentioned this in my first ever PowerPoint video that I did in the YouTube channel. Station bills are extremely important for drills because when the drill happens, they will look at that and go, oh, I'm supposed to be at Station B with fire extinguisher, blah, blah. Oh, I'm supposed to be over here at this hatch, monitoring and closing it. Hey, I'm supposed to be over here doing this and that and doing this task. Okay. There's a reason that the oldie sailors know the phrase. It's to the effect of drill until it's automatic. And what that means is it doesn't matter rain, shine, sleet, snow, heat. Your brain is so in tuned, automatically trained that the minute that those alarm bells go off, the minute that the ship's whistle is signaling to you that there is a real fire, real present danger, boom, you're on it. You're already muscle memory, brain calibrated, tactically there because you drilled a bazillion thousand times. And there's a saying behind doing something 1,000 times, you are more easier to commit it to skill and habit. So I hope this slide really hammers it home. Drills, drills, drills. Preventing fires. Obviously, we talked about earlier about fueling up. This is specific because this is one of the more dangerous times that you can possibly have a fire. And it is one of the ones that can ruin you, your boat, your people on board, and boats or things around you, even. Obviously, when you're fueling, put away the phone. I'm sorry, just put away the phone. Cut the music, put away the phone. It's a serious time. Stay focused. Pay close attention before, during, and immediately after fueling is complete. A big thing here, we've had some Reddit things I've seen. Make sure before you start, be sure there are fire extinguishers nearby. I mentioned this twice already. All right. Close stuff where it's open. We don't need hatches, doors, or ports open. And of course, this is the second big one I've heard memes about on Reddit. Please cut your damn engines. You do it when you drive up to a gas station on land, right? They make you cut your engine. Shouldn't that be the same thing for when you're on a boat? Pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, another one. Don't be smoking when you're fueling up. That cigarette. I don't care if like you didn't flick it, but the hats go somewhere. You're screwed. You shouldn't be smoking on a boat at all, but just keep it to a minimum and don't do it when you're fueling up. Use your nose. You talk about all these electronics we have in the world. We forget that our own body is the great detector to danger and something that doesn't quite smell right. Pun intended. So if you smell fuel vapors in your villages, you have a problem. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure that out. The biggest thing I have seen, and there has been a couple of videos that's been linked into our server, but use your blower for at least 6 minutes before even considering kicking on the engines. Don't be in a rush. It's not McDonald's. It's not a drive-through. It's a serious matter. Give time to when you're approaching to fuel up at the dock. Give time during fueling up and give time after fueling up. All right, lastly, recommendations. Obviously, I recommend preventing a fire from even happening by having prevention in place. You have your fire suppression system for your big ships, for your 20, 30, and 40 footers, maybe having a water hose. It's specifically there. You can crank that out in a few seconds, and you are able to do it. But remember, don't be doing it on the ones that it's not designed for because you are not going to have a good day. Preparation. Prepare for these types of emergencies. Having the correct fire extinguishers on hand. A good example of prepping would be when I was referring to fueling up. You have a high chance of something happening, so you have your fire extinguishers on standby. You don't have them stuffed away in a drawer, around the corner, down below another deck. No, you have them right there because, when something's not right, boom, you're able to neutralize it, cut the line, everything. Training. Having some sort of fire safety course. It doesn't necessarily have to be marine firefighting. You are required commercially to have that. But if you are on your recreational vessel, having just a simple fire safety course will help you identify, because there are some things I left out of here, because I'm assuming you guys know the basics, like the fire triangle. You stuff out one of the three, and the fire will stop, that sort of thing. So my recommendations is training. Another thing I want to add in here, I did not type in there, is safety. If you see something not safe, like fire extinguishers from 2012, say something. If you don't feel comfortable saying something, send me the information to where, and I'll do it myself. I don't care about being embarrassed if it means saving you, your crew, and the ship. Because all of us sailors know you never give up the ship. I hope you enjoyed this video and this little educational tutorial, and